Hi, I'm Liz Seeley, founder of Starry-Eyed Strategy, and I help you turn creativity into your greatest competitive advantage. After decades partnering with the world's best, biggest, and most beloved brands, I want to take you behind the scenes to see how the most creative leaders turn ideas into impact. Each episode features leaders from top CEOs and CMOs to founders and authors, revealing how they stay inspired to create brands that launch and last, and how you can do it too. You'll walk away with practical lessons and tools you can use, whether you're repositioning your brand, rallying your team, or planning your next big launch. So let's get started and stay starry-eyed. My guest today is Greg Creed, a wildly creative and unconventional brand leader who's led marketing for iconic brands including Dove, KFC, Taco Bell. He's actually the former CEO of Yum Brands, which is the parent company of Taco Bell, Pizza Hut, and KFC. He's known for helping brands find courage to make bold choices and for building transformative, courageous cultures. I got to see firsthand his collaborative style with teams, franchisees, and partners across the globe when I worked at KFC, and then later when I collaborated with Taco Bell and his team on innovation work. He's also the co-author of Red Marketing, the 3 ingredients of leading brands, which are relevance, ease, and distinctiveness, to distill his years of wisdom into actionable practices for any brand. He is founder and CEO of Unco, the Unconsultants consultancy, helping companies push through risk and find the courage to be bolder for breakthrough results, including on the boards he serves for Whirlpool, Aramark, and Delta Airlines. Greg, so happy to have you here. Welcome to Stay Starry-Eyed. And as we begin, I'd love for you to speak directly to the brand leader listening, whether they're leading a team or expanding a brand or trying to build their own, might be doing a little bit of all of those. What do you hope they'll take away from our conversation today? Maybe one thing you hope they'll try or think about differently for their own brand or business.
That's a very easy answer. I would say be bold, not beige. I think there's too many brands that are beige. Like no one loves them, no one hates them. Everyone's indifferent to them. And I think people are afraid to have someone not like you. But in love and hate, there's emotion. In indifference, there's nothing. And so what I see going on in the world right now and in branding is no one's courageous. Well, not no one, but a lot of people are not courageous. And so, yeah, I think if you just take away be bold, not beige, I would be deliriously happy.
That's wonderful. And we'll get into a few of your faves. But yeah, if you're just middle of the road, it's not going to be memorable and it's not going to stand out.
I used to say the just right score is the just wrong score. In marketing, to have a just right score. And I used to hate that attribute because I was like, just right means you're just wrong. It means you don't appeal to anyone. You don't upset anybody. You're just like, you're blah, 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 blah. And no one likes blah.
Stand for something.
Absolutely, yeah. Even I don't care that people hate you. So look, when I ran Taco Bell, lots of people love this. There are people who hate Taco Bell. That's okay. I don't mind. The good news is there's about 20 times more people that love us than hate us. But it's better than being indifferent. There's nothing worse than just being indifferent.
And we'll get into a little bit of how you decide, how you put a stake in the ground and how you would stand for something so that you can appeal feverishly to some, even if it's not as much to the others. Well, give us a little background, Greg, into how you started in the brand building world. How did you come to this awesome perspective of being more bold?
Question. Well, as a young boy, like all young boys, I was going to be a fighter pilot. So I thought that would be pretty fantastic. And though I ended up becoming a pilot, but not a fighter pilot. But my dad worked at Nestle. And so I got to meet people, and they used to, in Australia, this is a long time ago, Nestle used to actually do the products for Procter & Gamble, would you believe? And so I got to meet, people would come home with my dad, or I'd go out to golf and play with them when I was younger, and I'd meet these guys. I was like, oh, this is pretty interesting. Didn't quite know what it was all about. And so I decided I'd, get this thing called a marketing degree, which I think back in the 70s, no one even knew what it was, right? Then I joined Unilever, which was the most amazing training ground you could possibly get. And that's where I guess they really taught me how to do marketing. And so I started there. So I started selling soaps and detergents and did that for 17 years in Sydney and London and New York. And then I joined PepsiCo, and we got spun off as Yum, and that's about it. So I've always loved it. I think, I think I was thinking about my dad and I, this is funny, long time ago, used to play a game where we would sit and watch the television, because in those days you only had one TV. And the game was guess the brand when the ad came on. I'm serious. So we would literally sit there, and when the ad break came on, whatever the ad was, we would have to like hit the invisible buzzer, bzz, and then we'd have to say what the product was. So I think, I don't know why, but I think early on that sort of, sort of got me involved in brands and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, that's
Yeah,
that's how it all started.
I love it. My kids do something similar. They try to guess it mostly during football games and things, and then they actually replicate the little ads and have
Ah,
they try to like sketch out the ads. I
wow,
just
that's
maybe they're
impressive.
following in the footsteps of
Yeah, maybe,
you with.
or maybe they're following in mum's footsteps. I was never creative enough to like get up there and do a dance routine or sing a song, but no, my dad and I would play for ages, and my mum would be like, "Okay, enough, boys. It's time for dinner." So, but I think that's how it first started. Yeah, just guessing brands on TV commercials.
That's amazing. And did he do something similar?
Yeah, well, my dad was in sales, would you believe? So he thought all marketing people were, useless and a waste of time. In the sense of, I'm just joking. I love my dad, and we got on famously well, but yeah. So he was in sales with Nestle and in Australia for most of his career, like 36 years. Um, and so yeah, I think that's how it all started, how I got involved, and yeah, but he as a sales guy, he ended up running sales for Nestle in Australia. I think he still thought marketing people were, someone you had to put up with, not someone who really contributed to the organization. But anyway, that's how he thought.
What where did that come from and what did he think when you did go into marketing?
Well, it's funny, when you join Unilever in those days, this is a long time ago. You had to spend a year in sales before they let you start in the marketing department. And so I think he thought, oh, well, I'll do this 1 year in sales. I'll really like it. Then I'll stay in sales and I won't go off to be a marketer. But no, alas, I went off to be a marketer. No, I think he just knew I had a sort of this passion for brand building and passion for brands. And so, it was, in fact, in my last year at university, I did a study on one of their pet food brands. So it was all good. It was all good.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, and an awesome way to share those moments and maybe see which ones are but actually being bold, which one of those ads actually stands out that you remember.
Yeah, no, I think it's true. Yeah, I mean, obviously, awareness is one thing. There's
Mhm.
obviously, as you know, many other things. But if you're not, we're going to talk about it later, I'm guess. But if you're not relevant, then the rest doesn't matter, right? So, yeah, it was fun. We had a great time, and they're sort of one of my treasured memories of my dad. So,
I
yeah.
love it. Did he at all shape the way you think about leadership too? Because I think that's something that's been amazing to see as you've built teams across the globe.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's funny. I'm an only child. I don't know whether that helps or not. Everyone goes, "Oh, you're an only child," as if it's like there's a problem. And I'm like, oh my God, I love being an only child. And I know you've got like 5 kids, so I'm the exact opposite. I can't imagine having 5 children. I have two. I can't imagine having five, and I can't imagine having brothers and sisters, right? So I think in that sense, it's yeah, but they were my mum and dad were those classic, dad worked, mum didn't. But no matter what crazy idea I had, they were like, yeah, you can do that if you want to. There was none of this, why would you think you can be a rocket scientist, or why do you think you'd be a jet fighter, or why do you think you can be a doctor? There was never that sort of negativity. It was all about, hey, if you want to do it, you work hard enough, you can do it. So there was such this positive environment I lived in, where you were encouraged, and obviously some of my ideas were wacky doodle crazy, but they never were like, well, that's just wacky doodle crazy, why do you think you could do that? So I love the fact that I could express my ideas. And like, even my funniest story is, so I used to mow the lawn. God, none of the kids mow the lawn anymore. Probably too dangerous. But my dad liked, he had liked it up and down and up and down. And I was like, I'd do diagonals and I would do circles and I would do, and he'd be like, can't you just mow it up and down? I'm like, the lawn is mowed. The outcome has been achieved, but there's 1,000 ways to achieve the outcome, right? And so I'd do little circles, and then I would do crisscrosses. And he was like, I really appreciate you mowing the lawn. You did a good job, but couldn't you do it up and down? I'm like, I think that's where my marketing started, which is, no, up and down is one way, but there's many ways to mow the lawn, right? So
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. Yeah, it gets done creatively.
no, let's. One of my things I tell people, I'll play this with you. What two numbers together make five?
2, 3,
And
1, 4.
all right, and
I thought you were gonna do a 6, 7 joke on me.
no, 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 no. I'm not. No, that's pretty cool. No, so most people go 2, 3, 4, 1, 5, 0, or the inverse, right?
Of course.
But the answer is there's an infinite number of two numbers that make 5, 8 minus 3.
Totally. You could
And
go
I
on
think,
all day.
yeah, so you can go on all day. And I think what happens is I think most people think of 3 plus 2, 4 plus 1, and 5 plus 0. And I think my brain has been wired to do 8 minus 3 or 100 minus 95. Or so, don't look for the obvious answer, right? So those little things, I don't know, my brain just thinks like that in some weird, I don't know how it thinks like that or why it thinks like that. It just does.
Is that a gift or is that training or is it both?
That's a good question. I think it's a gift, and then you need to be you need to be trained how to use the gift, right? So
Yes.
my early days at Unilever, I had some amazing bosses who really taught me the art of marketing. So I think I was always this sort of curious marketer, but I needed to be taught, how to do it. And I had a couple of amazing bosses who were really tough on me, but tough, love basically. But I learned so much from them that you could never repay. Well, the way you repay them is to do it to the next generation of leaders, right? So
That's right. You
yeah,
pay it forward to the next gen. Do you feel like the creative freedom that you were afforded, whether by your parents or by
yeah,
leaders, are you focused on passing that on with your kids as well as the
yeah,
next
yeah. I
generation?
think no, it's funny because my daughter's in Frito-Lay. She runs the dips business at Frito-Lay, which is like a $1.6 billion business.
Oh, wow.
And then my son is at Mars. He's in HR. I still love my son despite the fact he's in HR. No, I'm just joking. So he's in HR at Mars and loves it. Great company. So they're both in business. And yeah, so I have, like, I guess the difference between dads and moms with children, I'm not there. I wasn't there for boyfriends and girlfriends and breakups. I'm just there for money and business advice. That's
Right.
that's my role as a
You're
dad.
like the life and career coach.
Oh yeah, exactly. Don't
Yes.
don't come to
Yes.
me on boyfriends and girlfriends. I have no interest in having that discussion. But if you want to talk about life, career, money, I'm your dad. So
Yes. Yes. Same in my family. I
yeah,
appreciate the specialties.
yeah. Everyone's got their strengths. Just stay in your lane.
Stay in your lane. That's right.
Stay in your
I love that the kids have followed in your footsteps to be in these. Even HR is very creative. That's actually how I started after college. A
Yeah,
little stint in HR before my return to marketing. It's strangely similar.
yeah. No, it is, and it wasn't like I forced them to. There was no like. I tried to raise the kids like I was raised, which is do whatever you wanted to do,
Yes.
and they sort of just fell into it, right? So but they love it. They're doing really well. I'm proud of them, and they're good people, and that's all you can ask for as a parent, right? Which is,
That's right.
have they turned out well? Yes. What did someone say? So long as they haven't been arrested and jailed or whatever, you've done a good job as a parent. So far, we've
Exactly.
avoided that. We've avoided that. So I think we've done a pretty good job as parents.
That sounds brilliant. How did you do that in the throes of Yum? And we'll get into a little bit more of your Taco Bell days,
Yeah.
especially, but how did you lead these massive brands, global companies, and at the same time lead a family?
Well, it's interesting. I think like my wife is the brains of the family. But I think, and she was a school teacher, but because we moved around the world a lot, she couldn't actually work. So in a funny way, she ended up, I went to work and Carolyn stayed home and looked after the kids. Not because that's what we chose, but when you move around, you just can't get work permits and stuff like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was very lucky. She is she's an English major, school teacher. So the things I'm bad at, like spelling, I'm not the world's worst speller. It's so funny being, and it annoys the crap out of my wife that I misspell things and don't care. That's what really, really annoys her. So I wrote something on LinkedIn the other day, and the kids said, "Oh, that was really good, Dad." And so Carolyn, is not really interested in business, said, "Oh, what did you write?" I said, "Oh, here it is." And so I sent it to her and I said, "What do you think?" She goes, "There's 5 spelling mistakes." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, but but what do you think about the article?" She's like, "Well, I can't get it. I mean, there's 5 spelling mistakes." Like she couldn't get past. And by the way, I spelt the same word wrong 5 times. So at least I said, well, at least it's not 5 different incorrect spelling. It's one word that's spelt incorrect. And I am literally the world's worst speller. And the joke is our 6-year-old grandson now spells better than I do, which is probably
Oh,
true. So
But
Anyway,
again, it's the end result. That's what matters. Like you
it
said,
is, yeah. But
that's
I
much
think
how you get there.
I think in terms of raising the kids and stuff is you just have to be in the moment. My sister-in-law said I'm the most in the moment person she's ever met. So if I am with the kids, I'm with the kids. If I'm at work, I'm at work. And my wife's favorite saying is, if I want to make decisions, I could go to work and make as many as I like. So I thought that was always good. So,
Well, follow up for that. How do you stay in the moment? Because I know that about you, having seen you over the years. You're very focused on that person. I think that's part of the reason you've been so wonderful at building teams, because you give people that individual attention, especially in this digital world. How do you continue
yeah.
to do that?
I think it's just you have to make time for people that matter. And if people matter, then you make time for them. If they don't matter, you don't make time for them. And yeah, I think some of my favorite stories. I think Jeff Jenkins, who used to work for me, who's I think Jeff. He tells the story of he phoned me one day for a bit of advice, and I took the call and I spoke to him. And then he realized I was about a half an hour away from earnings call, and he's like, why did you do it?" And I said, "Because you matter to me, right? You're a great guy." And so, the earnings call was under control because we've been preparing for it. So no, and I'm a big believer. Was it you can't change the past? You can only influence the future. All you can change is right now. So I think being in the right now is really important.
More important than ever before, perhaps.
I think more so. Yeah, I think one of the big challenges is a lack of bold equals courage, right? And so my biggest fear right now is people are not courageous enough.
Yeah.
And I think people need to be more courageous.
I agree. I think that we'll get into this as well. But sidebar, Jeff Jenkins, I talked to him the other day. He just loves you.
Yeah, well, you know what? In all honesty, there's I heard the other day there's 3 phases of life. Have you heard this?
Yes. Yes. Tell me.
Yeah, learn, earn, and return, right?
Yes.
And I mean, learning was fun, not really because you have to learn. Earning was fun, but returning is actually, I think it's probably better for the soul than even earning. Now you need to earn obviously to live, but in the return phase of life, and looking at what all of these people have gone on to achieve just fills my heart with joy.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's wonderful. Yes, and that's the best part. It sounds like.
Yeah, it really is. I used to, even when I was running like Taco Bell or Yum, I'd get up in March and I'd say, how much money did we make last year? No one remembered how much money we made. And so if you think your life is about how much money I made or how much wealth I've accumulated, if you think that's what matters, then you're sorely mistaken. It's about, and I always believe, even in a job, your legacy is defined by what happens after you leave, not while you're there. And so for me to see Taco Bell and Yum just going from strength to strength makes me really happy because that sort of says we did a pretty good job.
Yes, yes, a firm foundation. And
Yeah.
I've heard and seen that you have said brand and people are the two most important assets on the balance sheet. How do you make
Yeah.
sure that those are more valued and more visible with metrics behind them,
Yeah.
especially since you might not
No,
get
it's
credit?
true. People come in, they show you the balance sheet, right? And I'm like, well, that's really interesting. But those two things, people and brands, aren't valued on the balance sheet. And so I actually think the two most important people in an organization are the chief marketing officer and the chief human resource officer, not the CFO, not the COO. Everyone thinks that, but if people and brands are where value lies, then those two people on your team are the two most important people. I had an amazing woman, Tracy Skeen. She was my CHRO when I ran Yum. She was just unbelievably good. And I've been lucky to have, when I wasn't the CMO, to have great CMOs, that worked with me. So yeah. And that's not to say that the CFO is important. It's not to say the chief operating officer is important. It's not to say anyone else is important, but I think the CMO and the CHRO are the two most important people.
That makes sense, especially with how you would deliver for the guest.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
When you think back on your time at Yum, and it's amazing, I'd love for you to just remind the listener how long you were there, the fact that you worked your way up through Yum. You lived all over the world, it sounds like, but then as the CEO of Yum Brands, which is the parent company of Taco Bell, Pizza Hut, KFC, you become known for helping brands find that courage to make more bold choices, and also building this, transformative workplace culture so that you can execute against those ideas. Remind us a little bit about that trajectory, and I would love for you to tell us a little bit more about Taco Bell, because that firm foundation continues.
Well, I'm a huge believer that culture fuels results, right? So in business school, you get taught strategy, structure, culture, and they're the right ingredients. They're just in the wrong order. It should be culture, strategy, structure. And because I think if you don't understand culture in the organization and culture, what's going on in society, I'm not sure how you write a winning strategy. You can write a strategy that looks good in a Harvard case study, but it's not going to get executed, I think is one. And then the other piece of advice I give it more junior people is do the jobs no one else wants to do. Um, and when I went to Taco Bell in 2001 as the chief marketing officer, I think the average tenure of a CMO in the previous decade was 11 months. And everyone was like, "You're a complete idiot. Why are you leaving KFC Australia?" Which got to be KFC in Australia is not like KFC in the US. It's more like Chick-fil-A. They do like $5-6 million. It's an amazing brand. And people were like, "Well, why are you going to Taco Bell?" And I'm like, "Well, do the jobs no one else wants to do, right?" And but my belief is if I hadn't left Australia to go back to the US to do that, I would never have run Yum. Maybe I would have run the Australian business for Yum, but I would never have got to run the global business. And so I think you have to also take risk with your own career. Because if you're not prepared to risk yourself, why should the organization take risks on you? Anyway, I got to Taco Bell in 2001, and they'd had 7 years of transaction decline, which is interesting because for many of those years, they had the Chihuahua campaign, which everyone loved. It won every award known to man, except it didn't work. I mean, it didn't work in terms of driving sales. And I think the other important thing is I had the team that I inherited when I got there. I think everyone thought I would sack the whole team and start all over, but only one person left, and then I hired one person in. Everyone else was the same, and then we went on this amazing run and just had the most fun time. And even though I love running Yum, I love running Taco Bell more because as a brand guy, don't get me wrong. I mean, I really enjoyed being the CEO of Yum and being able to influence culture and all that sort of stuff. But as a brand person, to get to run a brand like Taco Bell is pretty special. And I think we were very courageous, and I think the organization was courageous. And what I love is that it's still courageous today. It still does amazing things. And I think it was doing like 4 billion when I got there in '01, and today I think last year they did 17 billion.
Woo! That's amazing.
And it's
Tell me
anyway.
how when you arrived, one person left, you have the same team. How do you go about creating that courageous culture? What are like the top 3 things that you do first, especially when you might be overwhelmed by that, decline? Tell us a little bit about the turnaround process.
Well, the first thing was to actually get focused. What tends to happen when things are going wrong is everyone brings out the machine gun and they just fire it randomly in the blip, hit something. And I'm a huge believer in focus, like be really focused. And so we focused on portability because at the end there we could have focused on 10 things. I will never know whether that was the right thing to focus on, but I think we did a problem detection study, and my joke was there weren't enough trees in Brazil to cut down to make the paper to put on the problem detection study results. So, and we could have picked a bunch of things, but we chose portability. And I think the fact that we got focused on portability, so we launched the quesadilla. Would you believe Jeff Bezos was actually in the Taco Bell quesadilla launch ad in 2001?
What? I'm gonna look that up. We'll put that in the show notes.
It was called the Hot New Handheld. And so we didn't call it a quesadilla. We called it a Hot New Handheld. And one of the guys at a Jeff Bezos meeting, everyone had Palm Pilots and everything. And one guy goes, "I've got this hot new handheld." So that's how we positioned it. We had we sort of took the grilled stuffed burrito and made, I think we called it the heavy duty portable. And then there was a lady called Lois Carson, amazing. She was in the food innovation team, and she created the Crunch Wrap, which was the classic taste of Taco Bell made portable. And so we had that. And then the other little thing we did is we launched this thing, Mountain Dew Baja Blast. And you know what? Last year that did $1 billion in sales at Taco Bell. One drink.
Unbelievable.
Anyway, unbelievable. Like there are brands that aren't $1 billion, and here's one SKU. I think it's 2 now. I think they have a Mountain Dew Baja Blast Zero, but we stayed on portability. And I think if we hadn't been maniacally focused or obsessed, I call them obsession metrics. Like, what are you going to become obsessed about? We were obsessed about portability. To be fair, the operators were obsessed about speed and accuracy. And that's really what we focused on for many years. And yeah, so quesadilla came out of it, grilled stuffed burrito came out of it, the crunch wrap, which is iconic, came out of it. And then, yeah, we created things like the Mountain Dew Baja Blast, which was the very first proprietary beverage that I think anyone in QSR had, and is still the gold standard doing. And my daughter, who's at Frito-Lay, was telling me they've now got that. I think they've got a limited time offer, a Mountain Dew Baja Blast pie.
Woo!
Whoa,
Have
coming
you,
out.
should
I'm
we
serious.
go try that this afternoon? Should we track that down,
I
or
think
is it
it's
not out?
November. I think it's November the 6th or something. It's coming out. But
Okay.
I was like, they've yeah. So it's been quite crazy. They did a gelato.
I
Mountain
was
Dew
just gonna say I
Baja.
saw the ice cream.
Yeah. So I'm gonna see if I can find this. Shouldn't be holding up photos.
Do you drink a Mountain Dew Baja Blast every day, or
Not
just some days?
Liz, not every day. That would make me, like crazy. But no, no, I do. I drink it a lot. You can't drink it when you're out. But when I'm home or if I go to Taco Bell, why can I not find this pie? This is crazy. There's got to be. Oh, here it is. This will not work, but there's the pie.
Ooh, that looks delish. All right, I would
Yeah.
taste that. Pie is my new favorite thing. Text me that later if you would.
I will.
Thank
Anyway.
you. This feels like the perfect moment to take a quick break and thank our amazing sponsors. I also want to give you a second to share this episode with a friend or teammate who could use a little inspiration to be bold, not beige. So go ahead, share the show with that brand leader who's been playing it a little too safe. And now, a quick thank you to today's sponsor, Legacy Pie Company. What began as one family and one perfect cherry pie has become a 100-year mission to master and remaster the most delicious recipes. Established in 1929, the Leonard family has proven that if pie is for special days, every day is for pie. That's why no matter what you're doing, it fits right in. Going to a friend's for dinner? Bring pie. Hosting a party? Break out the pie. Giving the perfect present? Send a pie. And here's the big news. Legacy Pie Company just started shipping nationwide. From their signature tart cherry and French silk to their famous savory chicken pot pie, all their pies are baked with real buttered crust and ready to send. Order yours online at legacypie.co. And remember, always bring pie. Now back to Greg Creed and what it takes to build bold brands and courageous cultures.
So yeah, it was just, and I think it was, we just created an environment where I used to call the team Mavericks and Misfits, and HR hated it. Like HR would go, "You can't call your team Misfits," and I'm like, "Well, yeah, because we are, and by the way, we love it." And so I think everyone rallied around being Mavericks and Misfits, and the brand essence, which we wrote at the time for Taco Bell, was the bold choice. That was really important because it basically said every decision. I used to say to her, every decision we make has to be bold. We can't make average, generic, beige, whatever you want to call it, decisions. We got to make bold ones. And I think that really mattered. And I think people were, it was like, how crazy can we be and how out there can we be? And no one was ever scolded for being too crazy. And I think in most organizations, it's the opposite. You don't get scolded if you're beige, and you do get scolded if you try to be crazy. So I think it's a shame, but that culture, it was the culture of Mavericks and Misfits, and it was the focus on portability that I think really changed our trajectory.
That's amazing. And when you think of how the team reacted, how soon after you put some of that in place? And I should also ask, did you create it with them? Did you say, what is missing here?
Yeah.
That we could move past the Chihuahua, which, like you said, might win a lot of advertising awards, but doesn't move the sales.
Yeah, no,
it
was a team effort. And it was, everybody on that team had a specialty. And the other rule I had was, if we can't make a decision, the person whose specialty it is gets to make the call.
Brilliant.
So let's assume we're all discussing media. I'm just going to make it up. Let's assume we're having as a team, as my marketing leadership team, having a discussion on media. And let's assume we can't reach consensus. Then I would basically say to Debbie Myers, well, you run media. What the hell should we do? Rather than, oh, well, I'm the boss. Because I didn't really have a media background. And also sometimes you get it wrong. My favorite story is Crunchwrap, which Lois Carson created. At the time, Subway was doing really well, and I wanted to call it the Crunch Witch. And my team said, that's a really bad idea. And I went, well, I'm smarter than you because I'm the chief marketing officer and you're not. So let's call it the Crunch Witch. And two of them, Bob Former and Tom Wagner, came back to me and said, well, we've done some research and we tested 20 names and Crunch Witch is the 19th worst name. I don't think they ever did the research. I think they just made it up, to be honest. But it was their way of saying to me, let's not blow a great idea by having a bad name. So I think also you got to have a culture where you're still the boss, but the team has the power or feel empowered to come back and say, hey, yeah, maybe most times you're right, but in this time you're really wrong. Don't do it. And I think that's what's lacking in organization today, and even in politics today, which is no one's prepared to, be the antagonist.
That's right. And that's just, it's gridlock and you don't do anything.
Yeah. Well, what's the old saying? Without tension, there is no attention. Right. So I think having tension is a good thing because it creates attention.
Brilliant. And it's back to your point about portability. Not only do you have the culture, or what we call the brand's North Star, and I think Taco Bell's always done an awesome job of that to figure out how it's different. Is that what also prompted the Think Outside the Bun campaign?
Yeah, it was funny because I also believe, beside having being focused and having a clear brand essence, you got to have an enemy. But you have to have one enemy, not many enemies.
Yes.
And the enemy was not Chipotle or Del Taco or Taco John. The enemy was McDonald's, because they were the big kahuna, right?
Yes.
And so as we wrote the brand essence, which took us a couple of days to write,
not a year, a couple of days.
A couple of days.
Doesn't take that long.
Doesn't take that long. Well, if it does, you're not doing it right. So we came up with the bold choice was the essence of the brand. And then because we had decided to focus on McDonald's, we were looking for a tagline that essentially, got us in the mindset, and think outside the bun is where that came from, right? Which was our way of saying, think outside of the burger chains and the chicken sandwich chains and everybody else. Because we didn't want people to compare us to Chipotle and Del Taco, because that was a small mix. The big world was burgers and chicken sandwiches. And so we wanted people to, think about us, if I want a chicken sandwich or I want a hamburger, no, why don't I go to Taco Bell? And that's where Think Outside the Bun came from. And it worked beautifully for us until, it's an interesting story, until one day, a guy called Ken Mensch, who runs Collider, came in and said, food has moved from fuel to an experience. That was such a beautiful and poignant insight. And so we sort of go, oh my, so Think Outside the Bun, which had worked well. So I remember phoning up David Novak saying, I'm going to walk away from Think Outside the Bun. He goes, I always knew you're an idiot. Now I'm confirmed you're an idiot. Why the hell would you do that, right? Because he was like, oh, that's the world's greatest tagline. I said, it was a great tagline when food was fuel. It's not a great tagline as food is now experience. This was when, these phones were coming in and people taking photographs of food and stuff. So
yes.
So that's why we pivoted to Live Mas. It wasn't because we got a new chief marketing officer, or it wasn't because we got bored with it. There had been this cultural shift in the role that food played, and we needed as a brand to be on the cutting edge of that shift. And I actually think we probably got a 2-year head start, because I was watching what all our competitors were doing, and they were still treating food as fuel. And so I think around 2012, 2013, we had this. We also launched Doritos Locos Tacos, but beside that, we had this significant. I think we had an insight no one else in the category had, and that really was fueling our growth, because we were talking about food as an experience, not food as fuel. And so you got to have people like Ken Mensch on your team who can bring those insights to you.
Yes.
And then you got to be courageous enough to phone up your boss who thinks Think Outside the Bun's the greatest tagline on the planet, and tell him you're going to change it. And to be fair, David, once he understood why we were doing it, he fully embraced it. But his initial reaction was, well, you always knew you're an idiot. Now, this is just an example of why. So I just don't think too many people, and this, because what you do, have a clear brand essence, the bold choice. I don't think people aren't focused like we were on portability. And I think if a cultural shift comes along, people don't either see the cultural shift or they see it too late, and everyone else has taken advantage of it. And really, that's your job. That is your job. And I think great brands do that. That's why I think Taco Bell is even more relevant today than it's ever been. And I've been gone 10 years from Taco Bell, because those things are still in place.
I love the fact too that you have such a clear direction. You know what fits and what doesn't, as long as you have that brand essence, which is why you created the RED framework:
Yeah,
relevance, ease, distinctiveness, to help
yeah,
brands grow with focus.
yeah.
Why do you think that brands still struggle with this? And I think you and I have both seen the people who are like, I don't really need to pause to ponder what the brand stands for. I just want to
I
know what it
know.
sells.
It's
Just
like,
fill the pipeline.
yeah, I know. Well, yeah, fill the pipeline with what? The best example is, so one of the underlying linchpins of our food innovation was everything had to be Mexican inspired. So the bold choice is the brand essence. The food, if there was a food essence, you would call it Mexican inspired. Which, these are all, what I love about them is they're so clear. I mean, Mexican inspired is so clear, right? Anyway, so we won the summer. I can't remember when we had a summer MBA intern. I'm not sure whether she went to UCLA, USC, UCI. I don't know. Anyway, she gives this great presentation on why we should add ranch dressing to the Taco Bell
This is my
menu.
favorite. This is my favorite story of brand fit. I was going to ask you to tell it.
And so personally, I hate ranch dressing because growing up in Australia, no one eats ranch dressing. But so everyone at Taco Bell knows I hate it. And so she's got 15 charts and they're all showing, everything's, 15 reasons why we should add it. So at the end of it, I go, no, we're not doing it. And everyone laughs because they think, oh, Greg hates ranch dressing, so he's not doing it. I go, I'm not doing it because it's not Mexican inspired. And give her credit, they went away and they came up with avocado ranch dressing, which is Mexican inspired. And I think most brands lack a clear brand essence, the bold choice. They lack their Mexican inspired. And so what they do is they just add all these things to the menu, and then you wake up one day and you go, what happened to the brand? I mean, if you, like when we did fries at Taco Bell, we didn't do ketchup. But that also makes us distinctive because we're the only brand, I think the only brand in the entire world that sells fries that doesn't offer ketchup. In fact, we made an ad about a ketchup packet crying because it couldn't get into the Taco Bell restaurant. So
I
I think,
remember that.
yeah, because we couldn't work out how to make ketchup Mexican inspired. And secondly, we realized that by not having ketchup, we actually were more distinctive. And I just don't think people do that thinking. They sort of, I don't know, they just don't stop and think and do those sort of things. So the other day when Taco Bell launched their nuggets, someone told me, I said, oh, they're not Mexican inspired. I went, well, hang on a minute. They're actually coated in a nacho chip coating. And the sauce is a combination, I think, of fire sauce and, would you believe, ranch dressing. And so I was like, no, it's Mexican inspired. In fact, the only time I think since I've been retired that I phoned up David Gibbs was when I was home in Australia and I realized they'd put Vegemite in a burrito in Australia. And I was like, what the hell? And he goes, what do you mean? I go, okay, I know Australians love Vegemite. I love Vegemite. It's not Mexican inspired. It does not belong in a burrito, right? And so I think that's what happens is brands jump on trends or fads without understanding the essence of the brand. And then in that moment, it doesn't do anything wrong. But in 5 years after you've done 5 or 10 of these, you wake up and you go, this is an amorphous brand that stands for nothing. It's all things to all people. You think about Taco Bell. What are the 2 biggest selling things in fast food? Hamburgers and chicken sandwiches. Could we sell them? Of course we could. Should we sell them? Absolutely not. We don't do salads at Taco Bell. We don't do kids' meals at Taco Bell. I think sometimes what you don't do is as important as what you do. And everybody wants to be like everybody else. Like it drives me insane. No, you don't.
Same.
Insane. You do not want to be like anyone else. Like, no. If you
Don't
look like
do
anyone
it.
else, you're doing the wrong thing.
That's right. And how do
Yeah.
you help with, especially with Unco, with your very own
Yeah. Yes. The
unconsultancy? How do you
unconventional.
unconventional to
Yeah.
be the unconsultant? How do you
Yeah.
tell these teams to stay connected with your guest, but watch what culture is doing, and then put those ideas, those
Yeah.
trends through with the brand lens?
Well, the good news is we do, let's not kid ourselves, lean on what we did at Taco Bell, right? So we show them the original brand essence we wrote 25 years ago, 24 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And then I show them the one that was last written 5 years ago before I left. And yes, there's a few more words, but you will still see the bold choice. You will still see Mexican inspired. You will, all the things that really define this brand. And so what we do is we try to replicate that for businesses and to get, or for brands, and to get them, this sort of really focused. And
Yes.
then you're right. And then the red marketing thing that sort of came about because Ken Manch, who ran Collider, Ken was in planning at FCB many years ago when I was the chief marketing officer, and we just hit it off. He's brilliant. He is brilliant. And so about 6 months before I got to be the CEO of Yum, David Novak said, "Hey, go around the world and just sort of see how good or bad we are at marketing." And the answer was, in any large organization in 140 countries, we were brilliant and horrible, and everywhere in between, right? And so in a large organization, we got 3 brands. I think the combinations of brands and countries is like 250 or 240.
Mm-hmm.
And so what Ken and I were trying to do is find what is a very simple template that everybody can use. This is not a template of tactics.
That's right.
That is not a tactic template. It's not like, oh, you have to run the same ad. I hate global ads and all that sort of stuff. But it was a template of how to think about brands. And where we landed on was a brand needs to be relevant, it needs to be easy, and it needs to be distinctive. And we then went back and applied that template to things we had done in the past, and probably with about a 95% success rate. You're never going to be 100. And the funniest thing was, after that, is I gave a speech, one of my last speeches. I gave a speech on easy beats better. Well, I almost got, pelted by tomatoes off the stage, because I grew up in the time of better beats better. So I was at Unilever, we'd make your clothes wider. Procter would make them wider. We'd make them wider. Procter would make them wider. How white can you make a white shirt, right? It's like, and what I think the difference in functionality, because functional relevance is a part of relevance, but the more important part is cultural relevance and social relevance. And I think people get caught up too much in the functionality of the product and not on the emotional connection that you need to build with the brand. And I'll give you my little example of of how this works. So we'll just play a little game. You have to play along with me. So,
okay.
What is the functional role of a watch?
Tell time.
Okay, so how much does it cost to buy a watch that sort of roughly tells the time? We're not trying to land man on the moon. We're just trying to tell the time. $10?
I would say 10, 12.
Yeah. Are you wearing a watch? You maybe not, because you're younger. Doesn't matter.
No, my Apple Watch is charging.
Okay, most watches cost more than $10. Okay, next one. What is the functional role of a car? Get you from A to B. If you drive a Kia and a Rolls Royce for 1 hour at 80 miles an hour, how far do they both go? 80 miles. So my point is, if all you're doing is selling functionality, then all you're selling is the category benefit.
Mm-hmm.
The emotional connection is the brand benefit. So if you're just selling me, this car will drive 80 miles in an hour, well, I can buy any car. If you're telling me this watch tells the time, then I can buy any watch. What you've got to do is, so functional benefits get you into the category, but they don't get you to choose the brand.
That's right.
And
which is back to your portability and then crunch wrap, brilliant combination.
Yeah, exactly. And so anyway, I became a huge believer that easy beats better.
I love it.
I think it's why Amazon has been so successful.
Mm-hmm.
I love the new Amazon campaign, where the girl comes home from college and her dad's on the treadmill. Have you seen this one?
No.
It's brilliant.
I was just going to ask, what are your favorite campaigns or brands now that are killing it, that are not your own?
So a girl in college comes home and she walks up to her old room hoping, and dad's put the treadmill in there, and dad's got 1960s shorts on, which are pretty tight. And so she looks at him and he's like, "Hi, darling, it's nice to have you home." And she just gets online and orders him more, flattering pair of shorts, right?
Yes.
I'm like, it's brilliant. It's just brilliant. My other favorite campaign I love, which was a while ago during COVID, was Match.com, where he was the devil. Did you ever see this?
No, this will be in the show notes.
Sorry?
This will be in the show notes. These are all awesome examples.
You got to look at it. So it's basically a girl dating the devil. And there's nothing going on, right? Because it's COVID, so everything is shut down. It is brilliant. Whereas everyone's like, oh, nice guy meets nice girl, or nice girl meets nice girl, whatever it is. And then they live happily ever. No, this is a girl dating the devil. I loved it, right? Because it's the last thing you would expect to see.
Ultimate polarization, by the way.
And it was so distinctive, because everybody else is, well, 57% of our hookups end up in marriage, whatever the hell the same boring story everyone else is telling. And I'm like, and it was hell. I mean, if you think about it, COVID was hell. So they took the COVID was hell and they made basically, the devil. And so she was going to date the devil. It was
That's
brilliant.
ridiculous, but memorable too. You were
Oh,
like,
yeah, distinctive, right? Just
distinctive.
So, so I love that sort of stuff. And
That great examples.
yeah, yeah.
Well, with that in mind, what do you think will separate these more creative leaders, creative brand leaders, from those who fall behind? Those who insist on just, we're just going to keep going with no brand essence. We're going to continue to be beige. What will set us apart?
Well, I think it'll be those leaders who inspire and those leaders who are courageous, right? And I was at a restaurant conference a couple of weeks ago, and there's a guy called Ryan Berman, and he gave a speech on return on courage. And I'd always had this, when you're a CEO, you get the elevator question, when people, and they go, oh, and I used to get asked, what are the characteristics of a great leader? And so I had smart, heart, and courage. And I could define smart, IQ, EQ, I could define heart, but I could never define courage. Sort of like, it's like, oh, you know what courage is? Anyway, Ryan gave this, he said, courage is knowledge plus conviction plus action, which is basically knowing, feeling, and doing. And I was like, oh, that is such a brilliant summary of what courage is. And I think in most organizations, there's plenty of thinking, there's plenty of knowledge, there's usually a lot of conviction, there's just not enough action. It's almost like you want to shake people up and go, make a decision. And one of the things I've always believed is that you have to make a decision. You won't always be clear. You won't always be right, but you always have to be clear. And the thing that used to annoy me the most when I was running Yummy, I'd go in a meeting and people would be like, oh yeah, well, we'll make the decision next week, right? And I go, so we made a decision not to make a decision. They're like, oh, no, we're going to make the decision next week. I said, no. You made a decision not to make a decision. I'm going to lock the doors and you're not leaving until you make a decision. So I think what is missing most is action. I think there are a lot of smart people. There are a huge number of people with conviction. I don't know why people are fearful. My joke is nothing we do, if you're an airplane pilot, I'm on the Delta board. If you're a pilot and you screw up, people die. And if you're a surgeon and you screw up, people die. We're selling tacos and burritos. No one dies if we screw up.
Yes.
So
try it.
Why on earth not be courageous?
That's right. Let's switch into a little rapid fire here with our starry questions. What is one new thing you'd like to try this year in your busy schedule?
Well, the one thing I did try this year was Lego. I have built 2 Legos, 9,000 piece Titanic.
Ooh.
And a 3,000 piece cutter.
Wow.
Like a ship. And the reason I did it, I started doing a Lego with my grandson. And so I decided that I'd go from, 15, 20 piece Legos to, you might as well go all the way. So I built Titanic and a cutter. So
congratulations. Yeah, that's amazing.
Which is good for me because I'm a very impatient person. It has taught me that I have to be more patient. And it's also good because it helps you with your fine motor skills as you get older. So
that's right.
Actually, the thing I'm going to try and do a podcast, as in not be on one. I'm going to try host it, and I want to call it Mavericks and Misfits.
Yes, I love it.
So that's what I'm going to do next year. That's my plan next year is have been on podcasts, but I've never done one. So I'm going to become a podcaster. That's
if I can do it. If Novak can do it.
I want you on it. You're more a Maverick than a Misfit. I got plenty of Misfits. I got plenty.
Oh, I love it.
I'm not short of Misfits. So I'll have you on and we can do the reverse.
Perfect. I also would need your input on I've been trying to design new Lego opportunities with using AI. What would a Hard Rock guitar hotel look like as a Lego set? For Hard Rock clients. I'll send it to you, get your input. When it comes to being courageous too, Greg, what is your go-to walk-on song or pump-up song? So you're about to go on your big stage. What do you play?
No, I mean, there's the obvious one. I guess it's like We Are the Champions by Queen, something like that. But it's funny, I like songs that have a thought to them, or I'm not saying songs don't have a thought. So I also love Queen, is Radio Gaga, and the line is "Don't be background noise." And I think that too many people settle for being background noise. And then I guess my other one is, because though I think these are New Zealanders, Crowded House, which is "Don't dream it's over." And I think that often we get to a point in life where we stop dreaming, and because we're like, oh, we're getting old, or what else is there to achieve? And I'm like, you should never give up dreaming. So the obvious one is, we are the champions by Queen. That the two, I think I like this idea of not being background noise. It's funny, I always I am not the best dressed person, I can assure you. In fact, I'm probably the worst dressed CEO. Because
I remember you making that logo where it looked good, which is not easy to do.
Yeah, but I don't really care. But the one thing I've always done is I've always wore funky socks, because you sort of have to wear the blue blazer and the gray slacks, and not when I was running my brand, but if I went in front of the board, I can't like turn up in khakis and board shorts and stuff. So I always wore socks as my sort of stick it to the man. And
That's
then
right.
someone said, well, when you become the man, what do you do? And the answer is you just keep wearing them. And so, like when when I retired, the first thing my kids bought me was a pair of socks that said CEO of the couch, which I thought was brilliant. And so, yeah, I think you just don't want to be background noise. You need to have an opinion. And the one bit of advice I give to people is, everyone turns up to a meeting prepared to answer questions. Most people don't turn up prepared to ask a really insightful question. So I'm like, never go to a meeting. Yeah, you've got to go to the meeting knowing what the answers are to the questions you're likely to get. But you need to have a question that you can ask if you get the chance. Not everyone at a junior level is going to get a chance. But if you get a chance to ask a question, you need to be prepared. You do not want to be like, let me think about it, right? And so I just wish people, didn't want to be background noise.
That's right. A memorable question, something that only you could ask, or something only you could wear.
Yes.
When I come on your podcast, I'll put the stars on my eyes that I like to wear.
There you go.
People are like, that's the way you could live your life, with your socks or what is that one piece of flair that only you could do?
I know, and people notice it, right? And so everyone now, the great thing is, what do you buy, Greg? Everyone buys me socks, but funky socks, not like beige.
Yeah, wild socks. Oh, that's
wild
so
socks. So I gave a presentation. Lawrence Kim, who runs IHOP, I got a pair of IHOP socks. I proudly wear my IHOP socks. I'm quite happy to, right?
Cute.
Yeah. Anyway.
Well, I know my time with you is short. Last couple of final questions. What is your favorite cocktail or mocktail these days?
Well, I don't drink. I've never drunk, which everyone thinks I'm now a recovering alcoholic, because if you're Australian and you don't drink, you have to be an alcoholic. But anyway, my favorite drink is this one.
Baja Blast, obviously.
Yeah, that's an easy answer to that one.
I knew the answer to that one. Well, I so appreciate you sharing your expertise, your creativity. I just love being with you. I could chat with you all day. But in the meantime, for now, what is one mindset or action you'd encourage brand leaders to do after listening to today?
Take action. Do something.
Yes.
Just like, even if it's wrong, that's okay. Just don't do nothing. And don't be beige, be bold.
Sorry, because I was because I was saying something over you. Say that again.
I said, don't be beige, be bold, take action, do something, all that sort of stuff.
Brilliant. And who is a creative brand leader who's being bold and not beige you admire, who you think we should invite to stay starry-eyed next?
I would invite, I call them Batman and Robin, Kevin Hochman and George Felix, who have turned around Chili's and done the most amazing. I literally, 5 years ago, I would have said casual dining was gone, dead, buried, never. And they just keep putting up the most amazing numbers. So I call them Batman and Robin. So you probably need to do the two of them. But Kevin Hochman and George Felix, that's who I would invite.
Done. It is amazing what they've done. They are the next Taco Bell. They've turned that around quarter after quarter.
It's it just keeps getting. They just did a plus 21 over a plus 14. Everybody else in the world is flat or negative, and they're doing those sort of numbers. It's amazing. And
you have to spend money to make money, by the way. They've invested an amazing amount. They've done an amazing job.
Yeah. So I would get them on. I think they've got a great story to tell.
Perfect. Greg, well, I'm so excited for you. Thank you so much for your time. Enjoy the rest of your travels.
Liz, I will. Lovely to see you, and I'll see you soon. Keep well.
Thank you. You too. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Stay Starry-Eyed podcast. I hope today's conversation sparked new ideas, strategies, and tools you can use to move your brand and business forward. If you enjoyed this episode, here's how you can help share it with your fellow brand leaders who need it most. Hit follow, share it with a friend, and please leave us 5 stars or a quick review. You know we love all the stars. You can also find show notes, resources, and additional inspiration at starryeyedstrategy.com. Until next time, stay starry-eyed.